Haley Downey, the one and
What's up,
only.
Austin? How's it
Oh,
going?
so good, so good. It's so good to see you. How you doing today in this quarantine, surviving, thriving?
Yes, I know. It's been one of those weeks, but I feel like I'm finding a rhythm. I feel like I can look like I'm ready for an interview right here, but I'm always wearing sweatpants. So I feel like it's been the eternal sweatpants season. Are you with me in that?
Perfect, perfect. First Easter Sunday ever spent from the comfort of your own home. That's got to be weird, right?
No, literally, especially in working for a church, it's like you're typically nonstop on Sundays. And so I'm like, this is so nice just to relax and like
I know.
enjoy
It's
the
like the Super
service.
Bowl. Yeah.
No, literally
Dang.
though.
Okay,
So
well, Haley, you're a longtime friend of mine and Paige's, and we met up at Hume Lake Christian Camp summer. What was it, 2013? You were a lifeguard,
2013.
lifeguard that summer, right?
Yeah, I was lifeguarding. You were doing rec? What were you,
Yeah,
what were
with
you,
with junior hires, Meadow Ranch. Good
oh
times,
my gosh.
good
7 years.
times. I
We're
know,
going
that's
strong.
wild. Going strong. And you've been a youth pastor now for like 5 years, 3 years at a church in Newport, Costa Mesa area, working with junior hires, now up in Long Beach, Arbor Road, church that I interned when I was in college and Paige worked at before we got married. A lot of those weird connections, right?
Wild. I love that we have a lot of overlap, which is fun.
Crazy. Love it. Love it. Hey, well, we know you super well. 910 doesn't know you super well yet, but we had you down for a Loma. You came and spoke. What was that? 2 years ago that you did?
Years ago. I know, it's
One of
crazy.
our
Time is flying. What the heck?
I know. Time flies when you're having fun. But I want to do a little speed round, and so kind of ask you four questions right off the bat.
All right, I'm
Um,
ready.
3 words to describe COVID-19, coronavirus. Go.
COVID-19. Okay, that was going to be about me. I was like, all right.
No, no, no.
COVID-19. Crazy. This is bad. Dramatic.
Okay.
Okay, opinionated. Um, and scary.
Okay.
So,
Crazy, dramatic, and scary.
you
That's
want me to
fair.
explain or no?
No, no, no explanation. Global
Okay, okay.
pandemic. If you could, if you could, at any moment in time, become this animal, kind of like Harry Potter-esque, where he can become a dog or the rat or whatever. I don't remember what it's called because I'm not the biggest Harry Potter buff.
Yeah.
It's like Animorphous or something like that. If you could snap your fingers and become that animal, what animal would it be?
I'm embarrassed that a baby cheetah just came to mind. Just like, okay, like
Like,
the cutest, but like the most potential for its future. You know what I mean? So it's like
right.
I feel like I'm kind of tiger vibes if you watch Tiger King. And everyone's taking a picture with me, but then like they look at me and they're like, wow, she's gonna grow up and be fast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But you're always the baby though. You're never an actual grown cheetah. You're just always the baby cheetah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe I grow up. Can I grow up or no?
maybe
Is that a
maybe
rule?
I'll make my mind up one day. Okay.
Okay, pray about it.
If quarantine has us all thinking about, what is the rest of our lives going to look like? If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life and one food only, what would it be?
Yeah, my desert island meal. This would have to be avocado toast. Honestly, I have avocado toast probably like I could have it at any meal. And so it wouldn't feel weird if I said steak, it'd be like, I don't want to have steak for breakfast,
Right.
But avocado toast, like
Breakfast,
you can make,
lunch, and dinner.
you can make it dinner vibes. And it's like change up your toast, you know what I mean? So
Fair, fair. Okay. And then
but
Haley,
can I add something
yes,
to
of
that?
course,
I
of
really
course.
like the everything bagel seasoning from Trader Joe's
Ooh,
on top of that.
ooh.
So I'd have to have that.
Heck yeah. That's a little life hack for all of you out there, nine
Honestly, life hack
teners.
for 9 and 10. Like,
It's so good. It's so good. Okay. And then Haley, you're a fairly like charismatic person. You're not afraid to get out there and occasionally embarrass yourself. Give us what's what's like the most recent, most embarrassing Haley Downey moment?
oh gosh. Um, this is most recent. I mean, this is random. Catching me off guard, Austin. I thought I knew some questions. Don't. I was recently in New York City, and my room or one of my best friends and I we met up there, and we basically tried our
Okay,
best.
okay, gossip girl. Jeez, weird
Okay,
flex, but okay.
yeah. New York City.
Recently,
So
I was in New York City.
I was walking the streets. No, I was like just fashion. No, my friend and I were like, let's go on an adventure trip. And long story short, ended up winning tickets to this like huge, basically kind of like a Coachella concert thing happening out there. Austin, I'm
Okay,
gonna send you a photo of me that's so embarrassing actually winning those tickets that you can
yeah,
actually
we'll
maybe throw
splice it in right here.
this slice in
Enter
right.
photo. Check
Yep.
this photo out.
So that's embarrassing. It's impressive but embarrassing. But that night, we went to the concert, time of our life, and we are like, it starts pouring rain, and we're walking home, and we're like trying to run and not like get poured on by the rain. So we're running to each awning on the streets, and I'm sprinting, and I trip, probably the worst fall I've ever had in my entire life. And it was embarrassing because there was a lot of people around, and there was no curb. So you'd think I tripped on the curb, but I was walking, and I straight went and I fell and looked like a wet dog. So that
So
was probably
good.
one of my most embarrassing. A
I
lot of
love
my
it.
moments come either with falling or with saying something to people when it makes sense that I wouldn't know something about them, but I say something at the wrong time. So that's
Nice.
basically what I'm notorious for and oftentimes get caught for. And I have friends that'll look at me in those moments and just be like, you're an idiot.
Classic. Yeah, and if you don't already follow Haley Downey on Instagram, go follow her now. I feel like I love looking at your little like experience bubbles below at all the like I was dying. You're good friends with Megan Fate Marshman, travel with her a lot, and like when you went and got her that branch, just like the
Yes.
world's largest branch for her analogy. Like following along with little things like that is just it's pure gold.
Yeah. Gotta make it adventurous, you know?
So good. Hey, and before we dive into kind of more questions about you, I'm curious. You recently started the account That's Not Canceled on Instagram.
I did.
What's that been like? Like that thing blew up.
So that's been crazy. It was funny. It was funny because I was with friends at lunch and I was like, these are the moments that memes or like some new account will thrive because one, everyone's on social media right now, but two, like they just want to latch to anything that relates to them. And so I was driving
Right.
home from that lunch and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what could I make if I were to? And then I was like, canceled things that are canceled. And I like came up with this thing. And so it's been crazy because I was just going to hide it with me, myself, and I, and then have friends be like, did you see this? And me just like be behind it and no one would know. And then I was like, I should share it because I want people
Yeah.
to like actually reap the benefits from it. So it's been funny that it's spread so much, but I'm grateful that it's something that's spreading that's like helping people. Because it would be a
Totally.
lot of pressure to be funny. Like if I owned like Daquan or like some meme account,
Right.
I feel so much pressure to be like hilarious, but I can have the perfect balance of like serious, but also like, wow, this is actually hilarious at the same
Right.
time. So
Right. It's so helpful. It's like I feel like we as NineTen have kind of latched on and we do our 9:10 PMs like That's Not Canceled with challenges and things like that. Like Chris Brown, the amount of times if you're watching this, hi Chris Brown, the amount of times he's said the words That's Not Canceled, like in all of our staff stuff, like announcements to the whole church, he'll be like, this isn't canceled. That's Easter's not canceled, getting all vibed with that. So it's fun
yeah,
watching that thing blow up and like 10,000 something followers on Instagram now, which is
so
crazy.
dumb. I'm like, I'm on the road to 10K. Not that it matters, but like if I can say that we got to 10K, so if you're watching this and you haven't followed yet, just follow.
Go follow. Go
My
follow.
book of life, you know?
All right. In the spirit of 3 words, Haley, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself?
Huh. It's really easy to think Enneagram when I hear that question.
Right.
If you haven't taken it, take it. It's helpful for you and your friends. I think the first word that comes to mind is loyal. And that would be like friend. I think being a loyal person. Being an encourager, I think would be another word. I feel like that's the role I have in a lot of lives of people is to encourage them.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I think fun would be another word.
Yeah.
It feels weird to talk about yourself, but I really do think that that's how God made me. So that's kind of the 3 words I would say.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I think one of the cool things about, being friends with somebody for a long time is you get to see them kind of get comfortable in their own skin. And so
Yeah.
much of that is having that self-awareness, right? Like there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, but we've talked about this so many times of like humility. The beautiful thing about humility is it's having an appropriate view of yourself. And so knowing how to describe yourself and who you are is such a big part of growing up and becoming more confident in yourself as you know who you are, and more importantly, whose you are, right? And as you grow in that relationship with Jesus, I think that helps so much with that self-awareness. That's cool. When it comes to quarantine, what are the like things that you love and hate about quarantine?
What do I love and hate about quarantine? Okay, I would say something that I miss a ton is seeing my friends without being questioned. To be honest, I'm like such a people person and obviously have my very close knit that I've been able to see. But I just hate the idea of like being questioned for leaving somewhere.
Right.
So that's been hard. And just like going places that I love. I like love where I live and certain like rhythms I have of like meeting people at certain spots and stuff. So it's just weird to do everything from home. So I think that's been hard. And that's something I miss a ton. And didn't realize how much I was out a lot, which is crazy. But I think what I secretly love about it is just like the forced rest that we're getting. But I think what I also love is that we're all in the same boat. Like there's no FOMO that can happen because everyone's having to do it. And I just think like there'll never be a time in history where everyone is doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And we're all like having to unite in like being anxious or having to unite in having to be creative and thinking of things to do. And I just think like I'm grateful for it secretly because I think we're all receiving rest we've either asked for but never actually thought would happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's been very powerful. I think that it's going to like change us forever in good and bad ways, but I think it's things that we'll never want to take back. So that's what I secretly love about it. And I like being in sweatpants literally all day. So
yeah, so good. So good. Okay. I asked this question to Rich Baker last week, common friend of ours, good buddy, works with you at Arbor Road. But this is like a Derek Gear question who works at North Coast now. Crazy. Also mutual friend of ours. But what are two common misconceptions of Haley Downey when people look at you or follow you on Instagram or know you from Hume or church or whatever it may be? What are those two things that it's like, a lot of people think this, but this is actually who I am?
Yeah. Such a weird question.
I know. It's a good one.
Until you're asked it, you're not like really thinking about that. But then you realize like, oh, I've actually been bummed when people have thought that about me.
Right.
Recently, I had someone who I met for the first time and they, on the FaceTime, were like, I thought you were so intimidating. And I was like, I'm literally the least intimidating person once you meet me that you could ever think of. So I think I was, to be honest, kind of bummed by that because I was like, the last thing I want to be is someone who people either feel like is unapproachable at certain times or like they've seen me a certain place and they feel like I couldn't be over here too. And so I think in that way I felt that. I think that'd be the first one. And I heard it and I was like, dang it, I hate that.
Yeah.
And the second thing would be people think, so I think I could come across this way is that I like in a fight or flight situation would be the fighter where I'm like, I'm going to be the one to like approach the bad guy and like fight for my friends. Cause that's like my heart and that's my motivation. And that's like what I would hypothetically want to do. But literally any fight or flight situation, I'm like, bye. I'm out of here. Like,
yeah.
I can just remember moments of like, something happened and I thought like someone was approaching our house and I'm like hiding under my bed. And my other roommate is like, has the pots and pans ready to like bang his head. And I'm like, I'll be under my bed chilling. Or like, if you told me I had to go to war, I'm like, I'd play dead. Like I would just be so scared. And so I think a misconception to me is that I like am always the fighter. Cause I think I like in my heart and in my like job, I fight for people and their hearts, but physically I'm strong, but I'm also not the first to be like, let me save everyone.
No, that's a good one.
No, I'm out of here. And I think like with that, people think, I had someone tell me that they were like, Haley cries. And I was like, I'm human, like, and I'm a girl. Of course I cry, you know? So those are misconceptions where I'm like, do you think I'm just this like big person like has no emotion and just fights for
Mm.
everyone, like kills people. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
So
it's good to
that,
cry, man. No joke, I may or may not have watched the movie Onward on Disney Plus the other night. And
oh,
have you
no,
seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. There was a moment at the end where Paige looked over at me and she just got tears like flowing down her face, and she was like, "Are you crying?" I was like, "I'm not crying. You're crying." But I was crying.
Like for
That
crying.
it got
Totally.
me. It got
When
me.
someone said,
But
"Does she cry?" I'm like, am I literally a robot? Like,
right,
don't
right.
cry. It's okay to cry if you're listening to this. Go cry in your room.
Go cry. Just go cry
Go
now.
cry.
Okay, this is another one of my good buddy John Tunger. One of his questions I asked Baker this last week. But what's your superpower? What not like you can teleport or like what would your superpower be? But when you jump onto a team or enter into an organization at church or at Hume, like what does Haley Downey bring to the table that's unique?
So it's not that I can fly. That's not what we're
I
asking.
mean, I I don't know.
Or I snap and like a cloud comes and I disappear. No. So
That'd be
I
sweet.
actually thought that's what you were asking at first. But I think this is interesting. It's also so weird talking about yourself, by the way.
Right,
But
right.
I realized it's not me that made me. God made me. So glory to him. I think what I bring to a team, I think the first thing I think of is encouragement, that like no matter if I disagree with someone, I'm willing to like first be on someone's team and then have the hard conversation.
Yeah,
I'm not like I said, I'm not a fighter that's just going to be like stomp on someone. So I think that in general is kind of what I bring, but also like I have an ability to think outside the box and also think of a new idea really quickly. Like if something can't happen, which is crazy because quarantine is bringing this out of me a ton.
that's
Like
cool.
if something that can't happen, that's like a normal rhythm or like what we're used to. I love the challenge of thinking of something new, and I weirdly can think of it pretty quickly and then
Mm.
people get on board. And so I think I never fear when something has to change. I just am like, all right, so if we can't do this summer, then we just do this and we make the most of it. So I think it's like positivity and like the ability to like actually think of what a game plan could be pretty
Yeah, that's
quickly.
cool.
And
That's
then
cool.
I'm like, I feel like I like am innovative and can think of it, but then I really am dependent on a team to make it happen versus just like running with myself to like
That's
do
cool.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say.
Brad, that like adaptability is huge.
Yes.
Hey, we talked about this a lot in 910, but oftentimes our most significant seasons of growth come through hardship. And I think we all celebrate the mountaintop experiences and we love them. And I think even sometimes we seek them out or desire them, but it's so often that in the valley or in a moment of hardship, which
Yeah.
for a lot of us, quarantine can be that as we're forced kind of away from face-to-face conversations and away from regular rhythms of school and church and things like that. But and what's an example for you, maybe even recently, where a hardship created a season of growth for you?
Yeah. I hate that I can answer that quickly. I think sometimes
Mm,
in certain seasons it's like, oh, when has it life been hard? And for other seasons it's just easier to think of. I would say the past year and a half have been a lot of grief and just a lot of loss. And one of them in particular, my sister lost her husband like a year and a half ago. And so, as you can imagine, that's like super traumatic, not only on her,
yeah,
but everyone surrounding her as someone we love and loving him. And so, that season, I felt like God was like just taking a lot of things away from me, regardless if it was death or certain friends or seasons that were just changing in general or things in my job or just things that kind of felt like, God, why are you just like taking things away from me? I feel like you're a God that just like gives us gifts, but like I'm experiencing a lot of loss. And so I think that's the valley that I've caught myself in pretty like regularly. And I'm like, okay, God, why do you have me here? And it's been the growth I've seen is that God's given me eyes, and this has been my biggest prayer, is like, God, give me eyes to see things the way that you see things, like that song you sing, give me vision to see things like you do, is to be like, okay, God, why is this happening and why is it happening to me? And what are you wanting to teach me in it? And so I would never take back this this season of loss, even though like each step of the way I was like so distraught over it. I think, and now I feel like in a whole new fresh spring season in that, but I think it's been those moments, those low moments where I've been able to be, one, so dependent on the Lord because he's the one that didn't leave. And he's the one that was so stable amidst instability of emotions of people around me and inconsistency that was just happening. And so I think I was forced to learn a rhythm of dependence on God that now has carried into the good season, into the mountaintop, where I even just see God more, and just training my eyes to like have lenses to see good, and good not meaning good the world would say, but good and like, God, you're making me more like you. You're making me into a disciple that's able to see you in all things, like Paul talks about. And so I think, yeah, my valley for sure has been loss, whether it's friendship or just death or new things. I think I've had to even shift my perspective from being like, God, this is a loss, to this is just a change and you're with me in it. And it's not what you had for me in the first place. And so I think dying to my will has been included in that, because we just don't realize how often we think through what our plan is until our plan is disrupted and we realize, crap, I've been banking on my own plan, even for my sister's life or for whatever. So yeah, it's brought a huge life perspective of this life being momentary and kind of what I can do out of that. So
yeah, that's cool.
Valley.
That's cool. I love that you said of the like, God, give me the eyes to see things like you see them. Like I want to have that perspective shift. And that's really where we're going right now in NineTen, where we started a brand new series, actually titled after Megan Fate's book, Selfless. And so hit her up and was just like, hey, I love this concept of, wanting to be less aware of myself. And so much of self-consciousness and pride comes from just being aware of me. And so we're diving into the book of Philippians, and we spent 2 weeks looking at the gospel. And so Palm Sunday, we looked at part 1 of the gospel, and in Philippians chapter 2, where it just says like, Jesus didn't consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. And then that really being that phase 1 of the gospel. And then this last Sunday being Easter Sunday, obviously looking at the resurrection of Jesus and celebrating that. But as a NineTen community, we didn't just want to celebrate Easter. We wanted to be intentional with, really a Palm Sunday, and then Jesus's walk to the cross 5 days in a row. We did morning devos on it. And then this last Sunday being Easter Sunday. I'm curious for you, how has Easter changed over the years for you? Of, early on, you and I both grew up in church, of it was just Easter Sunday, and you get dressed up for it and you go to church, and it's like Christmas, Easter, there's these big holidays and these moments at church that are important. And then, now Easter as a pastor, it's different, and you become more aware of it. How has the gospel changed for you, the way that you do daily life, not just big Sundays?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is crazy because, to be honest, when I was in high school, middle school, it was just the holiday that I got to dress up and like go to wave a palm branch, or just like
throw that pastel shirt on.
Totally. Throw that one pastel shirt that you own in your I feel like you probably wore a polo, Austin. I don't know why, I just feel it.
No, it was a button up. Come on.
From like Hollister.
Oh, duh, obviously.
No, it truly has changed. I think the word that you just said, for me specifically, when I think of this year, that has clung to me, which is obviously the Easter word, is resurrection and like new life. And this is conversation of like, what are you going to do with the life that you have that is so God-given that like, if it wasn't for his death and resurrection, you wouldn't be here and able to live free. So how can I make the most of the freedom that I have? And we actually are in a similar series of kind of going through Philippians in my youth ministry. And I just talked about ways that we can live as citizens of Jesus, of heaven, and people that aren't living for the now, but we are in this weird in between. And so what do we do with the actual life and breath that we have, knowing that it's temporary, but also like, we don't want to waste the moments. And so I think for me, it's radically shaping literally every moment of every day and saying, okay, God, you've given me breath. How do you want me to use it? And for me specifically, and I'm walking with some people in this as well, is like with people that are anxious and with moments where I get anxious, where I say, okay, is this what I want to like flood my heart right now? Or what is my heart vacant to? Is it vacant to be filled with anxiety, or is it filled being filled with things that are life-giving and things that are of Christ. And so I think as I think through resurrection giving me life because Jesus lives, I think, what am I going to fill my heart with? And is it worth it right now? And even to ask you guys as you're listening, it's like, we have like so much open space there, but if we're not filling it with Christ, it's going to be filled with something else. And so we have one life, and it's worth it to fill it with things that are good, things that are like in Philippians, Paul talks about. And I've just been super challenged in that, is that when I catch myself filling it with things that aren't life-giving, I have to question myself and be like, what am I pursuing that's either causing me to fill it with that thing, or one, is it a choice that I'm doing that, or why am I not choosing Christ in the life he gives me, the physical life and breath he gives me that isn't one that's anxious? And so that's been a huge way I feel like the gospel is radically shaping every day for me is,
heck yeah.
Haley, what are you filling not just your time with, but what are you filling your heart with? Because out of your heart will flow everything else. And so
so good. So good. Hey, thanks so much, Haley. We could keep talking about this forever, I know, and I'm excited for our groups to jump into life groups right now. And such a fun call, so much wisdom pouring out from the pastor, Haley Downey. So thanks for investing into NineTen. And this call is not sponsored by Yeti coolers. Just want to throw that out there. But it is sponsored by Finding Nemo. That pillow in the back looks like Nemo.
Finding Nemo pillow? Wait, let me.
I don't know. It looks like Nemo though.
It's yellow, Austin.
Oh, okay. Well, in the background, the shadow. All right, Haley. Thanks so much. Okay. That was pretty good.
Bye, guys. Have fun in small groups.
We appreciate you.